What can we do to boost, really our own learnability? If companies or managers are not going to do it for us, what can people do to do this independently? And here are the 6 points that we illustrated in another article we wrote with Mara. 6 things to do when your job kills your curiosity. 1, know what you don't know. Great quote here by Stephen Hawking. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge. Or I think Mark Twain said, it's not what you don't know that will kill you, it's what you know for sure that isn't true. Yeah. So I think this is why it's so important to get feedback and get some awareness as to maybe how knowledgeable you really are. And the problem is, of course, we live in a world where very few people provide this feedback. So surround yourself with people who can be brutally honest and tell you, actually, you don't know what you're talking about. Here's a book, here's a link, find out. So know your limitations. This is a real picture. Second, stop focusing on your strengths. It's a famous kind of arm wrestler who obviously focused too much on one arm and not on the other. But it's a good image to illustrate the ludicrous premise of the strengths-based movement. You know, that you should only realize what you're good at and focus on that, which means you don't develop any other skills, you don't perfect any of your defects, and you take the easy and comfortable route, which is to just play to your strengths of what you already know. How are you going to become better? And even people who are very, very good at certain things have issues that they need to address, okay? Third, very important, and I can't believe it's the first time I'm mentioning Facebook here, but cut down the distractions. This isn't the real tagline or mantra of Facebook, but it could well be, right? In fact, this is a real quote by Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook. A squirrel dying in front of your house may be more relevant to your interests right now than people dying in Africa. You heard about the filter bubble, yeah? Big concept, the fact that people don't just pick bubbles in the physical world, but they also live in virtual bubbles, where they surround themselves with people who tell them what they want to hear, and that's why we're surprised. What? What happened in these elections? Or how did Brexit happen? Or none of my friends said anything. Well, it's because we are narrow-minded and live in these bubbles. But more importantly, the issue that I have with Facebook and social media and these things is that they kind of satisfied a very short-term and short-sighted, impulsive, craving-like form of curiosity. It's the equivalent of kind of fast food, no nutritional value, but it creates more craving, and then it makes us all ADHD, and it's very difficult to concentrate, read, or think when you're living in this world of distractions, okay? You can even think that from an evolutionary standpoint, maybe our ancestors, it was good to be higher on curiosity because they needed to explore different environments and maybe find something to hunt or something to reproduce somewhere else, and it kept them outside their boundaries. Now that information is in an overload stage and it comes to us and we're bombarded, it's probably more adaptive to have the ability to ignore this, right? Because it's like fast food or junk food to our nutritional system. That said, of course, we know that even people who spend a lot of time on Facebook are not equally curious. Some interesting work done by my colleagues at Cambridge. They looked at different activities and different kind of footprints. And by activities, I mean comments, likes, groups that join, of people who are higher and lower on curiosity, and you can see big differences there as well. So what I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of curious people in Facebook as well, but at the same time, in general, Facebook and other forms of social media do tend to kill rather than nurture our curiosity. 4, hang out with people who are different from you. Yeah, and this is kind of making the point here from an ethnical standpoint, but you can think about it in all sorts of terms. We tend to gravitate towards people who are like you. It's a kind of socially accepted form of narcissism. If you're similar to me and I really like you, it's like an accepted way of liking myself. So the less narcissistic you are, the more likely it is that your friends are different from you. Sometimes you have to force yourself to do this. It doesn't come naturally, especially when other people have the same problem. 5, volunteer and say yes more often. There's a lot of people who even if they just occasionally try to do things they haven't done before and try to proactively say yes to activities that are unusual, that might grow and develop their curiosity further. And finally, embrace psychological diversity. This happens, if you're a manager, you tend to get in your team or employ people and reward and get along with people who have your same values. If you're an employee and you work in teams, you will get along better with people who are like you. So sometimes the really strongest and most powerful way to understand the concept of diversity is in terms of psychological diversity. Accept people even in your Facebook feed that have very, very different attitudes and values than you. And it might be difficult to tolerate, but it will make you more open-minded. It will help you see the world from a different perspective.